can't stop the signal now.
Welcome back to another Rebel Rant. And today we're going to dig deeper into the Cuties controversy. So I'd like to start off with an article from Deadline.com from July 2nd of 2019. Co-founder of Sundance, Sterling Van Wagenen, don't even care if I pronounced that right, he actually pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years in prison for that right there. He was convicted for 2 different occasions between 2013 and 2015 of doing inappropriate things with a young girl between the ages of 7 and 9 years old. This is the co-founder of Sundance. Now, there's 2 things to really point out about this. While some people may say that's great, here's the thing. I'm telling you right now, this man in his sentence was a sacrificial lamb meant to mollify the masses. With people in these positions, I can all but guarantee you this was not the first time something like this happened. So, and the fact that he's a co-founder of a film festival that is heavily involved in producing films that does in fact include young children, it is safe to say without a doubt they had essentially a never-ending supply to choose from. And then if we head over to Variety.com, on January 14th of 2020, they did an interview with the French producer of the movie Cuties, one Zangro. And this article clearly explains the background of the movie as being about the hyper of pre-adolescent girls. So right from the beginning, they're not even mincing words about what this movie is about. And the article goes on to talk about how the star of the film joins a group of young dancers who hope to twerk their way to stardom. As a result, Sundance awarded Ducour with a Global Filmmaking Award. And I can guarantee you it had nothing to do with the actual plot. Now, Ducour also did a movie called Mamans before Cuties. And as it turns out, this Zangro actually produced both Cuties and Mamans with Ducour. So these two already had a history of making movies together involving young girls, where the previous movie, Mamans, was actually about a girl raised by 2 mothers in a polygamous family. So these people seem to have an interest in young girls and less than traditional family settings. And this is an interesting point right here. The article asks, why were you keen to sign a deal with Netflix? And his response, for obvious reasons, because it gives us access to a world stage. This is an important fact of the situation. Now, for this Mamona, she wanted to premiere the movie at Sundance, specifically because they supported her from the outset. So keep in mind, not long before this article, the co-founder of Sundance was convicted of you know what. Now, some people have argued in defense of this movie that this movie is a documentary. However, these people do not understand what a documentary is. The inspiration for this movie came from Mamona's personal experience. However, it is not something she experienced for herself. During one of the local festivities of her old neighborhood, She witnessed 11-year-old girls doing these things while the mothers watched. So this is not, in fact, a documentary. This is not from something that she experienced growing up as a child. She saw something happening in her old neighborhood and decided to make a movie based on what she saw. So this is in no way a documentary. The story itself is fictional. She made it up. The characters are fictional. Now, these things, with these children doing these things, that does happen in real life. This isn't even close to a documentary. And this part is actually quite disturbing. Getting back to Zangro, he openly states that the casting process was a saga. They did in fact take 6 months to audition for this role. The 11-year-old female lead of Fathia. They auditioned 650 girls. Folks, that is a lot of children doing a lot of inappropriate dancing. And he goes on to state that it was in the very last hour of the last day they found Fathia, the young girl that they chose to play the lead character. Kind of funny how that works. The very last minute they find their star. Now, Mamona had already worked with a young cast of Mamons, as did Zangro, as the producer. So these two have a history of working together and working with children. He goes on to state that there was a magical link and a deep sense of trust. The sense of trust is to be expected from children. Children are very trusting by nature. As far as a magical link, that I'm not sure that this guy understands how sinister that actually sounds, especially under these circumstances. And during the interview, he goes on to make the statement that France is not the same as the United States. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Obviously, we are two different countries with what are clearly two different sets of values. The Sundance Film Festival is a European thing. Honestly, I've never understood the fascination with it, but I'm starting to understand. Clearly, there are things going on with this festival that would not be acceptable within the United States. He goes on to state that we have to fight every day to preserve the representation of our diversity. That's kind of... these people, they like to state the obvious and they don't. I'm honestly not sure if they realize what it is they're saying. At this point, it seems clear that their idea of diversity includes certain types of actions with children, which thankfully the reaction to this movie has been overwhelmingly in direct contradiction to this guy's statement and beliefs and stance on this movie. Because keep in mind, folks, the co-founder of Sundance was convicted of certain actions against a child. These are the type of people that are running and are involved in with the Sundance Film Festival, and by extension, Netflix. Now, if we take a look at an article from shadowandact.com, I've never actually heard of them. Apparently, they do stuff about film and television, and this article is dated January 27th of 2020. Now, the title states, Momona Decor's Cuties confronts the betrayal of young black girls, which is the smoke and mirrors that they keep puffing at the general population. However, after witnessing the trailer for this movie, folks, that's all this is smoke and mirrors. This movie is about something else entirely. Now, the links will be down below if you want to check out any of these articles. A lot of this rehashes what has already been discussed. But I want to bring your attention to this particular statement. What starts as an innocent desire to fit in and have a place in her new environment becomes a cautionary tale for not just young girls, but for the rest of the world that has decided that young girls, especially young girls of color, aren't worthy of protection. Folks, I would laugh hysterically if this situation wasn't so disturbing and disgusting. Who on this planet doesn't think that children are worthy of protection? Who in their right mind, what sane person would decide that young children, not just young girls, young children? That's another point I want to make about this situation. They are heavily focused on young girls. What about the boys? They're saying young girls aren't worthy of protection as far as the world is concerned, which is a maybe in certain parts of the world children aren't considered a resource, a precious resource worthy of protection, but in America and large parts of the world, yes, children are considered worthy of protection, not just young girls, both girls and boys. And then we come down to another part of this article where they state the cuties are vibrant and vivacious. It's the predatory men who sexualize them who are terrifying. Oh my God. Oh my God. I need a moment to process. It's a mixture of shock, disbelief, and just outright rebel rage, folks. This is just an incredible statement of ignorance and propaganda that it's difficult to even process it. These people are making a movie that is P to the E to the D to the O in nature, just by its very existence. It was written and directed by a woman, and yet somehow men are the bad guys in this. This was written and directed by a woman who, in that previous article, had a quote-unquote magical connection with the children playing in this movie. And yet somehow men are the predators in this. It's not the girl's fault for engaging in this behavior. It's not the adult's fault for allowing these girls to engage in this behavior. It's not the adult's fault for teaching these girls how to engage in this behavior, including the parents of these children. No. It's the men's fault. Unbelievable. This is unbelievable, folks. Are you starting to sense a pattern here? Not only are they creating a P to the E to the D to the O type movie, they are then turning around and blaming men for being men. Now, I'm not saying the P to the E to the D to the O is justifiable. That's not what I'm saying one bit. Not at all. There's nothing right about it, about engaging that kind of behavior with children. But to sit there and just blanketly accuse men of being 100% at fault, nobody else is at fault for this movie, that is insidious at best. Both men and women were involved in creating this movie. When females engage in this behavior, regardless of their age, and I'm talking about grown women engaging in this kind of dance and behavior, they are inflaming the natural tendencies of men. And they are purposely part of this movie. There is so much going on with this movie. Not only is it clearly meant to normalize the P to the E to the D to the O lifestyle, so to speak, as they like to put it, they are clearly attempting to vilify men in general. Men are not allowed to talk to women. As a man, if I try to flirt with a woman, hit on a woman, get her number, get her to go on a date, I literally run the risk of going to jail. I am not allowed to be a man, to act like a man, especially towards women. The goal here is to psychologically castrate men until they are no longer men, until they are nothing more than mindless animals doing as they're told. So what happens, this is a thought exercise here, folks. So what happens when men are not allowed to chase after women, full-grown adult women, for relationships, for marriage, to create families? But then they produce this type of filth that, in spite of what they claim, is clearly glamorizing the P to the E to the D to the O lifestyle. They cut off normal, natural relationships with full-grown women. Then they wave this type of filth in their faces. And as I said before, I'm not excusing those types of actions towards children. Not one bit. I'm simply engaging in a thought exercise into the motivations behind these people that created this movie. This is their thought process, not mine. And if you may have not have heard about how they're going after anime girls, animation, cartoons, women that aren't even real. So first they went after the real women, cut men off from the real women. Now they're trying to cut them off from the fantasy women. And what are they leaving men with? Little girls. This all leads to the same place. This is not my thought process. This is their thought process. I do not agree to it, and I do not submit to it. And to further cement this point that I am making, it goes on to state, Cuties quickly shifts to a tone of breathless terror whenever a man appears in the frame, as it is unclear how their presence will impact the girls and women. Oh my God, are you kidding me with this? Are you kidding me with this? Are you kidding me with this? As far as full-grown women goes, when you dress like that and you dance like that, you better expect men to be aroused, for their lust to be inflamed, because that is the natural way of things. However, when you trick children into these positions, when you allow them to engage in this behavior as the parent, as a film producer, you are the one that's at fault. The good men will say, "What the hell is this?" And they will put a stop to it. The bad men will certainly be tempted, at minimum. I am not making excuses for the bad men. You cannot create these situations. You cannot condone it. You cannot allow your children to engage in this behavior and then be surprised when something bad happens. The parents of these children are at fault. The people that made this film are at fault. To sit there and say that every single man alive is a predator, when these people are the ones creating these movies, it is smoke and mirrors. It is insidious. And during what they describe as one powerful scene, the lead character hides under the bed because her mother is upset by her father's quote-unquote betrayal by taking a new wife. Now keep in mind, this family in this movie, they're Muslim. Multiple wives is common in that part of the world. So, isn't this Islamophobia? Isn't that what they like to call it? I'm not I'm not promoting one thing or another here. It's another thought exercise, asking a question. As they like to put it, isn't that Islamophobic? It's a little curious on that one, because usually these people fall all over themselves trying to protect Muslims. So it's this is a little surprising here that they would promote the P to the E to the D to the O and yet speak out against Muslims, which has its own problems with the P to the E to the D to the O. That's a whole nother rant for another day. These people are all over the place. And oh my God. More than a commentary on the predatory behaviors of... Oh my God. They're not even trying to hide it. I mean, they're just in your face with it. So not only is this a P to the E to the D to the O movie, it's designed for those types of men. Then they turn around and blame men for the fact that these people created this movie. They're not blaming the people that created this movie. They're blaming the men that watch this movie. They want this movie to be legal, but then they want to sit there and point the fingers at the men that watch this movie. This is the definition of insanity. They claim that this movie is meant to bring light to the situation. That is a lie. And this was very much designed to appeal to the P to the E to the D to the O, both men and women alike. Because yes, the P to the E to the D to the O, both men and women fall under this category. But then this article goes on to and blanket blame of men. It's just beyond the pale. I cannot. That phrase doesn't even do justice to what these people are doing. And then we have Tessa Thompson. You may or may not know her as Valkyrie from Thor Ragnarok. Yes, a character that dabbles on both sides of the genetic spectrum. Let's put it that way. And to the best of my knowledge, that is her in real life as far as her lifestyle goes. And she goes on to defend this movie, claiming that it was simply an error in marketing. Disappointed to see how it was positioned in terms of... I understand the response of everybody, but it doesn't speak to the film I saw. My God. Oh my... I don't have an explanation for these people's thought process, folks. I don't have an explanation for it because it doesn't make any sense. In her original tweet, Cuties is a beautiful... God. Oh my God. If you've seen the trailer, if you haven't actually managed to sit through the entire trailer, you already know this is not a beautiful film. She claims that it gutted her at Sundance Fest. Oh, but here we go. Introduces a fresh voice. A French Senegalese black woman. There it is, folks. It's all about checking off the check boxes. It's not about any real outrage on these people's part. It's all about checking off the check boxes. As long as the right check boxes are marked, they can make any movie they want. And she goes on to say, mining her experiences. As we already discussed, these are not her experiences. She saw something that somebody else was doing to their children. She did not experience this for herself. Smoke and mirrors, folks. Film comments on the hyper wah of pre-adolescent girls. As usual, nobody talks about the boys that are abused, that are victims of the P to the E to the D O. It's always about the girls. It's never about the children. Because boys and men don't matter to these people. And the simple fact is, no. This film does not comment on these things. This film glorifies these things. If what she was saying was true, the trailer would have been much more sinister, and it would not have made this the things that these girls were doing, these 11-year-old girls, it would not have made it look like they were having fun. It would have shown them just experiencing terrifying things. But that's not what you see in the trailer, because that's not what's in the film. It's a P to the E to the D to the O, glorifying man bashing, which is completely contradictory, but that's what these people are. They're living, breathing, walking contradictions. And then she goes on to state that Netflix didn't make the film. That's completely irrelevant. It does not help their case at all. The more these people try to defend the movie, the more they reveal themselves as just absolute lunatics and vile and perverse people. I'm struggling to find the words. So with bounding into comics, they actually dug into her tweets, starting where she claims that Cuties is a beautiful film. A lot of the people that are responding, and last time we looked, there were over 500,000 dislikes on the trailer. People are in disbelief at her stance. Rightly so. Anybody that is trying to defend this movie is either a P to the E to the D to the O, or they are an enabler. Seeing as how this woman is, she swings back and forth across the genetic spectrum. I'd be very surprised if she didn't have her own, let's say, experiences. Jeremy from The Quartering sums it up as succinctly as he possibly can. Okay, P to the E to the D to the O. And to be brutally honest, that is all you need to say. The whole point of a trailer is to give you a clear picture of what is inside of the movie. Granted, I've seen some movies that the trailer didn't really do a very good job of revealing everything that was going on in the movie. Not even necessarily sometimes it was presented as a comedy, but it really wasn't, or vice versa. But this, no, I'm sorry. You cannot explain away what was in this trailer. There is no justification for it. There is no defense of it. Especially when it is rated TVMA. There is no whitewashing this or sugarcoating it. It is what it is. What you see is what you get. And that's what these people don't understand. The ones that defend this trash. Sorry, boys. I don't know how much more of this I can take. This just absolute gutter fire. It's just looking at this. Oh my goodness, what is this? And this does talk about how the description now states that Amy starts to rebel against her conservative family's traditions when she becomes fascinated with the free spirit dancer. So the conservative. This movie spits in the face of conservatives. I mean, her family in the movie is Muslim. That's something else. We're not going to touch on that. But the fact that they described this as rebelling against conservative family traditions. As a conservative, no, I don't want my daughter dressing. I don't want her even dressing like what these girls are dressing like in this picture right here. This right here is disturbing to me. I'm not okay with this. And I sure as hell would not be okay with my daughter dressing like that. Not even as an adult. I would not be okay with it. Especially not as an 11-year-old girl. But they want you to believe that that's a bad thing. That other article claimed that children are not... that the rest of the world doesn't want to protect children. But then they go on to state that conservative family values are somehow a bad thing. Well, guess what? Conservative values are there to protect the children. The contradiction in what these people are saying proves the lie. This is not about telling a story about stuff that is going on in the world. This is about promoting the P to the E to the D to the O, while vilifying men. Because men, good, strong men, are the biggest threat to these people. That is the truth about Cuties and Netflix and the Sundance Film Festival. Is it clear why some people, such as Tessa and other alphabet people, love this movie? And why they wanted the global platform that Netflix affords them? Keep the heat on until this house of cards burns to ash. This has been another Rebel Rant. Speaking into the void.
Can't stop the signal now.